In this video, we will be going through all 30 days of my challenge where I tried to make $1,000 at age 16 from a woodworking business. And this is day one. I tried to use wood that I had laying around, which my first goal was to use this piece of wood that I had in my pile outside, which was a piece of poplar, but as you can see it's quite warped because it was chainsaw milled, and so it took lots of hand planing and sanding. I have a power hand planer, Makita, that I use for this mostly, and then I also had just my orbital sander for this. These side tables were going to be about 18 inches long by about 12 inches wide. I tried to leave them the most live edge I could because I found the bark really nice, and I was planning on coating the top with epoxy, which was going to seal on the bark anyways. I began ripping also wood that I had outside to make the legs. This is day 2, and I started making the legs here. As you can see, this is the first set that I started making. I wanted just to make a simple design, 2 rectangles basically with 2 connector cross pieces at the top. This design, I wanted just to make everything, I wanted to make the most profit as I could, which one of the ways I was able to do it was using leftover wood, or just wood laying around, which as you can see here has some wormholes and stuff like that, and took a bit more to sand out, but in the end I was able to make decent legs for it. I wanted this design to be simple and cheap since it was my first table that I was going to be making and listing for my customers. This was just on Facebook Marketplace, trying to find a customer for this one, and so that's why I made it out of that. Then I started, I was going to make a table out of this pine tree cookie, which this tree cookie was about 28 inches in diameter and about 30 inches diameter in the biggest area. As you can see, I had a crack and quite a big wobble, so it was going to take a bit of work to make it work. I also started on another set of legs and just preparing lumber. This was day 3 now of the challenge, which again, using lumber I have available to me, often has lots of bark on it because I tried to get the most out of everything I could when I was chainsaw milling these a couple years ago from my yard. This is just from my bush. I have about 2 acres of bush on my yard, and yeah, my main goal from this challenge was just to prove that I could make $1,000 and have it mostly be profit from just being on my own. I came from a construction job in the summer, so I thought maybe I could use some of those skills, and this if I were to get a job after school, it would be about $1,000 maybe that I'd be able to make a month, which that's why I made that a goal, was because I wanted to show that I could make just as much money by myself as I could at a job where I'm an employee just working at a co-op or whatever. But so that's why I chose this and chose to do this challenge. And YouTube, I chose to do it on YouTube just to keep me more accountable and keep me more disciplined in actually doing the challenge. I dedicated 2 hours a day after school to work on this. You have to keep in mind that during this time I was still in school. That's why the goal wasn't higher. I bet you if I wasn't at school I could easily make $4,000 or $5,000, but because I only had 2 hours a day that I wanted to dedicate, that's why the goal was so low at $1,000. We are now into day 4 here, and I was finishing assembling another set of legs in case I needed some. I was planning on maybe doing another set, so I just had some extra wood, and that's why I made this next set here as well. I just used screws because the reason I wanted just to use screws was because I just wanted to make this first set of legs fast and cheap, so that I could get the most profit out of it and stuff like that. Also making me, and I would fill the screw holes with wood filler that I would just make from sawdust at my house. And I was doing another sanding on the tree cookie. This is day 5. It took a lot of sanding to try to make this decent, but I did router sled. I used a router sled to flatten this tree cookie, which made it a lot flatter, which I also chiseled off the bark for that as well. This was the start of the pedestal leg that I wanted the tree cookie to be on the pedestal. So that's what I'm making here, just out of some plywood scraps and that I had laying around. A pretty cheap base for this, but I thought it would look kind of cool. But yeah, it was just to go at it here with. This is my first time ever building a pedestal leg design, and that was just about it. Here's me now painting. I had to start painting here, and for a while I was doing it out in the greenhouse, but then it started to get quite cold, so I had to bring it inside later in the challenge. But at the start I did it in the greenhouse, and here I started doing the epoxy too. Finally, as you can see, I was taping up that big crack because I wanted to seal that with epoxy and stones to make that look kind of cool. At this time I was just working on the 3 tables, the 2 side tables, and the tree cookie, pine tree cookie table. Now it is day 7 of the challenge. I did more coats of paint, tried to do that the best I could. I hated painting. That was my least favorite part of this entire challenge, and doing this stuff myself was I wish I had the money to buy metal legs at the time, but I didn't want to put that money into this. Again, the epoxy was laying around from a previous project. That's why I chose to use it. And this challenge was all about me using stuff that I already had available, like wood just laying around, and I had this paint too, this black. I thought that looked nice. The pedestal legs were quite easy to paint, but the other ones, that's where it started getting time consuming, and I didn't like that. Here was another project I was thinking about starting, was with this it was a bit more punky, but I was thinking about ordering some penetrating epoxy, but I didn't quite get to it because it was very basically gone, that piece of wood, because it was so punky and stuff. So I decided not to use that in the end. I also did another coat of epoxy here on these items. Now I was up to day 7. I was working on another project now. I had 2 spruce planks here that I was gonna try to biscuit joint, since I have one of those, on together, but the problem was, as you can see when I'm sanding, it is not very flat, and I tried to flatten them out the best I could with the planer, with the hand planer, but I didn't get it very good. But I had the jointer to make a nice joint, but it's very hard to biscuit joint 2 boards together that are not flat and are twisted up like this. So I don't quite know what I was maybe thinking there, but I was gonna try. And so I started also milling up some more lumber, because that was a big thing that I was always doing, was you actually go through quite a bit of lumber once you start building stuff. Even though they're small, simple builds, you start really going through the lumber. Again, I was doing epoxy coats every time I could. The finishes were starting to look quite nice. Nice glass looking stuff or finish on the 2 side tables there, as you could see. And I was always painting every day. That was getting rough. Those 2 things. The biggest thing I liked was creating and building new things. And here I think I was getting ready. I was getting ready for another project. As you can see here too, I got done the epoxy on those 2 side tables and was sanding off the epoxy drips. This was another project that I had. The coffee table, I was also doing the coffee table, was making this bench. That is why I was cutting all those boards and stuff before, was because there were meant to be legs for this bench. That project didn't end up turning out in the end, but it was just an attempt on an idea. As you can see, I'm going to be building it. It was now day 10, and we were working on assembling some legs for this. Were the bench legs, but these didn't really, I wasn't happy with the design afterwards and how it all looked, and it was quite a bit tippier than I expected, but that's all right. It was just an experiment, I guess you could say, in a way. But yeah, it was alright, but this stuff happens, and that's part of the reason I liked woodworking, was experimenting with all this sort of designs, because there are quite a bit of designs you can do, even just with regular rectangles and stuff like that. At this point, I had sealed the crack on epoxy, or on the tree cookie with epoxy, and I was working on sanding that out and sanding off the drips, because this was just about ready to sell or put together with the pedestal legs. Then I just decided to seal up do another quick coat over top and another coat on the bench, which the bench top, but that didn't actually end up getting used in the end. This was me assembling the first two side table legs side tables that I built. This is now day 11, so it actually took me 11 days to get these done, which was more than expected, but I guess that's the price it takes when you're salvaging wood and painting them yourself and doing this sort of epoxy. If I made my own, or if I got metal legs, it would have definitely been faster, but again, that's, I guess, the price you pay. But then I also I put polyurethane on the bottom of the tops of everything, just to make sure it's more sealed and air doesn't affect it as much. This was another piece that I found. It was a smaller piece, but I was going to use it as another little table. But as you can see, again, it was pretty cupped, but the planer was able to take most of that out, and we're gonna just use this. I did have some metal legs laying around, but this was me installing that I was gonna use those metal legs were gonna be used for the little table, this little table. But as you did see earlier on too, we did get to assembling the tree cookie table. On everything, I do this wood filler, which I'm doing here. This was day 12. We were already up to day 12. Had no sales yet. I was getting a little discouraged, but we did just have 2 things completed. I was making some more pieces too for later projects. That's what I was doing there. And that's the first coat of epoxy on the new project. And then now we are into day 13. This is where I just sold those 2 side tables for $120, our first sale. So I was quite excited for that. And we just did have another order for another exact same set of side tables as the ones I just sold. So that is what I'm working on here. I got started on the next order here, and so I was super happy with that, because that meant that there was hope and that people actually liked this stuff, because I had, within an hour, somebody wanted to come buy those for $120. I know they might have been priced a little cheap, but that's all right with me. We just needed something to get us started and get our name out there, and that resulted in us getting this next order. And during this order, this was just me cutting up more log or more boards. All the boards that I had milled previously with the chainsaw mill were very wide, and so I was always using the table saw and the miter saw. Those were my main pieces of equipment that I always used. We were now getting into day 14. I then began assembling the new legs for this next order here. I guess the legs were supposed to be a little bit different, so a little bit different dimension, so I had to make new ones. I couldn't use the old ones that I created another set for earlier, but I was able to get them all done in one day, assembled in one day, so I was very pleased with that. This was me getting ready to biscuit joint those two boards together that I had previously made using this DeWalt biscuit joiner. It is quite a new tool that we have in our shop, but as I told you before, this did not go as planned and failed because the boards were not straight enough. So that was a failed project, but I was able to salvage them later, so don't worry about that. Then these were just more sanding on the new orders, and I sand usually just to 120 grit if I'm covering with epoxy. Sometimes I might go up to 180 grit or 220. But wood filler I just make myself out of sawdust in my house or in my shop, and yeah, I do everything in epoxy at this point. Then I decided to use, this was an old project from about 2 years ago. It was a mega table that I was building, but as you could see, it did warp in the middle, and that was because that involved the heartwood. So I was gonna cut off that part that it warped on, and then just make two side tables out of it, making trapezoid legs. This was day 15. No, we were in day 15, and so and there was still a good chunk left on the, even though I cut off the warp piece on that old piece, but I was glad to make that piece work, because those tables were gonna look pretty nice with how big they were. And I just had lots of sanding too during this time, but the sanding didn't get to me as much as the painting did. The epoxy I didn't mind either. It was the painting that was the worst. But then here too, I was going to start on some more projects. Oh, the lady, this was day 15. The lady that had previously ordered those two side tables had changed her mind and wanted to actually get two custom ones, the tops custom, which then, so I had to restart, but I was able to still use the other previous tables that I sold those separately just on Facebook Marketplace. But when you get into custom, this was gonna be worth a lot more money, and I was going to be able to sell them for a lot more money, so I was happy for that part. And the biscuit joining actually went well. That is one reason that went well, is because I had a planer now, as you've seen before. That planer I bought for $120 using the money I got from the previous sale. So I was happy with that, and we started on this custom piece and more trapezoid legs. It was now day 17, and we had more and more epoxy to do. I got done the first glue up. This lady ordered 2 this size. Got done the first glue up, and then right on the next day started on the second glue up. Everything went pretty well with these 2 glue ups. I was thankful for that, but the main reason that it went well is we had the proper equipment. The planer, everything was perfectly flat beforehand, which was what I guess determined success over failure. So we are now up to, and we're finishing up the trapezoid legs now. One of my favorite designs actually that I seen on YouTube. And yeah, but again, I had to make a different base now, which that's why I had to cut more wood because of this custom order. And so that caused me, so I had to make more, so that caused this lady's order also to get a little bit pushed back, because I had a bit more on the go because of this order. I was also recut the 2 previous pieces and tried to resalvage them with the planer to hopefully biscuit a joint and glue them up later on. It was day 18 now, and we actually did have another sale today. We sold that little table that had metal legs for $60, bringing our total to $180. I was now just a little sale, but here you can see me finishing it up for getting ready for the sell. But it was good. It was profit. Now we were into day 19, retrying the glue up for this piece. But this time it actually went well. I was very happy with that. The one thing I want to get in the future though is more pipe clamps. Those would definitely be helpful, but still, even with 2 and just some other ordinary clamps, I made it work and we got the glue up done. This was the new, making the table legs for the custom order. The lady wanted it 24 inches high and 24 inches long by 16 inches wide. That's why I had to biscuit joint these 2 pieces together, because I had nothing that big in my wood stash. But that's why you have have these tools, so you can work with it and make people what they want. It was quite a bit of sanding and finishing during this time, with all the projects being glued up and stuff like that. I was really focusing on creating tabletops, not the legs at this time. So then I began building the legs for this coffee table, which I was gonna make. It was gonna be quite low, but it was a sturdy. I made this design out of, I think it was 2x6s, but I made them in like a L shape for each corner, and that's really what gave it the stability. And it was very big, or bulky, I guess, too, you could say. But overall, I thought it was quite a good design for the table this was. Again, more sanding and finishing here, but we were able to get it all the sanding done, which I was prioritizing that over the finishing, because, or over building the legs, because you can get the legs built a lot quicker than the finishing process with all the sanding, and definitely the epoxy. The epoxy took me a lot of coats to complete. This was day 20, and I was just taking out this piece out of the clamps and finishing it up. This was the spruce. This was going to be the coffee table top for the base in the back, and it was just spruce that I had. And overall, I thought it was going to look pretty good, even though it was maybe a little bit lower and smaller than most people would need around in the country here. But yeah. And then I also got done a lot more sanding and finishing on the trapezoid legs. I think I had at this time about seven legs on the go. I had the 2 trapezoid legs, the 2 order legs, the coffee table leg, and also that other set from the previous what I thought was the order, but then the lady changed her mind. But I was gonna still finish those legs up just to sell on Marketplace as a set as well, because I've had good luck with selling that set or type of furniture set before. Lots of times I like just to use scraps up, which that's what I'm doing here. And I was building another set of legs as well, because I think my one set actually didn't work out quite right, because one of the pieces was a little bit off. And that also happened for the previous. That was the most frustrating thing with using your own lumber that you chainsaw milled and has been sitting around in the weather for over a year, was that it quite easily got destroyed, or it was hard to make it perfectly square, and it took a lot of time. But also in the previous video you've seen me finishing up that little end table. This was now day 21, and this day was just a lot more of the same. just building and building and building. And I had to restart on the one set of legs again for the custom order because they didn't quite work out. But luckily this time I did. For the 4th time, I was able to get the one right after looking at it again here. But yeah, I was happy that I got that done. As always, I always do wood filler. A lot more sanding too here. And this was a project. This was a river table that I was hoping to get to that I started here. But in the end, I didn't by the end of the challenge. But it was gonna look pretty good. I was epoxying at this moment the coffee table and the two trapezoid tables that I made out of that piece that didn't really work out in the past. Again, I was just finishing up the custom order. This was the day that I actually sold that little side table for $60. My total was $180. And still wasn't doing that great since it's day 22 now, and we only have 8 days left to the challenge, and the goal was $1,000, but I was only at 180, not even 20% of the way there. I was already about over 70% of the way done. But I just kept going. I had lots of projects on the go. It was just a question if I was going to be able to get them done and sell them in time. Again, more polyurethane, and this was day This was day 23 now, and I was just working on some more projects. I think I got started on another set on this day. I was always starting new because I knew that I couldn't wait to sell, because there wasn't other stuff that I could do with the projects that I had on the go at the moment. I had just to create more. I was trying to use wood scraps right now to try to build like a little cutting board thing out of these wood scraps. Just a glue up with that, but in the end that didn't really turn out. I had the trapezoid legs, or the trapezoid set, done, and so I was mounting those. I was glad I got that done. Because those would have been a bigger ticket item to sell. And it was now day 24. See here, I was gluing up the wood scraps. This was just a fun experiment that I was doing. I had time on my hands and wanted to see if I could create something out of these, but in the end it didn't really turn out. It had quite a twist in it. I don't know how that completely happened, but even with going through the planer, it had quite a big twist in it. But we just kept going and kept trying new things and trying to make things work. That's always the biggest challenge that I had, was trying to make things work. You gotta have patience and time during this, because yeah, like this project you can see here, it was not very great at all. I did get it planed up, but it was still very very wobbly, and I don't think would have lasted that great. This is now day 25, getting done these little side tables too here, and I got done the custom order, which I was glad I got that done as well. As you can see, I'm assembling them now too. This was a big win in getting this custom order done, because I got paid $250 for that custom order, and I sold them the next day. So it was day 20. It's day 26 now, and we did sell them for $250, bringing our total to $430. But we also had the other trapezoid tables for sale for $150, and those were getting a lot of interest. That's what I'm doing here, is I'm gonna get started on another set of, or more trapezoid tables, because those had just such heavy interest. I had like 8 people wanting them, and that's why I was on a mission right now to create as much trapezoid tables as I could. I was gonna start with just 3 here. That's what I thought I could make. But yeah, that's as far as I got for that night. Then I was getting ready to finish up this coffee table. It was gonna take a little bit longer though. But it is now day 27, and we did sell the 2 trapezoid leg tables from before for $150. Those were just out of kind of scrappy pieces of wood, and we sold those for $150, bringing our total to $580. And right now I'm getting started on another set of tables, 2 side tables, and a custom order from the city here. I was very happy with that, and I also got another custom order for 3 more of the trapezoid tables. So I was getting in business here. I had so much on my plate, but I was only at $580. But I was trying to get done as much as I could. I was sanding up these 2 tables. These were out of a bit more punky poplar, but they were still good with the epoxy penetrating into them and getting soaked into them, hardening them up, and nice spalted colors too in them. But those were gonna be, I started on the legs for those as well here. It was day 28, and a lot was happening where I was making the legs for this next custom order. These were a bit smaller tops. They were 17 inches by 14 inches wide, a little bit smaller, but they still wanted the 24 inches high. So that's what I was working on. So the table legs were still going to be a bit bigger, and this was another $250 order. So I was very happy with that. And still, during this time, I had kind of I was still trying to get done the trapezoid legs as well, but I was more focused on getting done these because I was trying to get these done for Christmas for this guy. He came in, I only had about 10 days to get this order done, but it was day 29 now, and I wouldn't get these done before the challenge was over, but I did get these to this guy before Christmas because these were his Christmas presents to his wife. So it's always kind of nice that people think of your work that good as a present for somebody. But yeah, got it done again. And this design was the first design that I made for this custom order that had a shelf in the legs too. So I thought it looked quite nice actually too. And this was me working on the trapezoid legs, because now I already had started 2, but I got another order for 3, but I still wanted to get that first set that I started done too, just to sell on Marketplace because I knew they would sell as well. So I was working on, at this point, finishing up the coffee table and primarily getting done the 2 custom order side tables, the 2 trapezoid tables, and then the 3 other custom trapezoid tables. So we are going heavy on the glue ups again during this time to get all that done. The challenge was coming up to an end, but we did have a good spark here at the end. We only made $580. We didn't get to the 1,000, but we didn't get to sell everything that we completed either. If we were to sell everything that we completed, we would have made $1,000 and $70. But we didn't sell everything. We sold the custom tables a couple days afterwards, and the other side tables that I also had for sale to a couple days that same day as well. And that was like $370 right there. But this was day 30. Overall, the challenge was pretty good, but we didn't make it, but that was all right. We still learned that we can make money here, and if I were to keep going, I'd probably make a bit more next month. But overall, I was glad I was able to complete it. I did 30 days of work. It was a valuable test to see if the business model would work of a woodworking business, and it did. I mean, right now I don't need a whole bunch of money anyways, and during this time I also had basketball going on, so some days I wasn't really able to do very much with basketball practice after school, most 3 days a week. But that's still $600, just about $600. Good chunk of change in our pocket, and most of that was profit, but I did reinvest about 50% back into the business. But if you want to see more videos, go check out my current challenge that I'm doing, $500 as fast as I can. I'm trying to do that one in 15 days or somewhere around there. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so anymore. really helps me out and keeps me encouraged to do the YouTube stuff. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and please subscribe.